welcome to the Victoria Memorial Hall for today's event, which is going to be an illustrated lecture on Destination Moon, the Indian story, to be delivered by Devi Prasad Duwari. He's a renowned space scientist and director of the MP Birla Planetarium in Kolkata. Whenever you hear of the Indian story, of course, you can always visualize that any story for that matter, and particularly Indian stories, have their own share of twists, turns, climaxes, and end with the adage of all's well that ends well, right? So I'm sure that these aspects will be covered also in today's lecture by Dr. Duwari. So may I request first Dr. Jayanta Sengupta, Secretary and Curator of Victoria Memorial Hall, to welcome the audience and introduce the speaker for this evening.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's lecture on Destination Moon, the Indian story. And it's a privilege and honor to have with us this evening to deliver this lecture my old friend, Dr. Devi Prasad Duwari, who is the director of MP Birla Planetarium and also the director of research and academics at the MP Birla Institute of Fundamental Research. He had been here in the Victoria Memorial Hall to inaugurate the landmark installation exhibition called Museum of the Moon last year, as many of you might have remembered. And while introducing and inaugurating that exhibition, he gave a remarkable, a mesmerizing lecture for only about 15 minutes. And that got many people quite angry, in fact, and they demanded to me, saying that you should have him back for a longer lecture. So that's what I did, and that's what we have done for a very appropriate occasion. And we are very thankful to Dr. Duwari, or Devi as I call him, for readily accepting to speak on this subject. Dr. Duwari is also honorary faculty of the Department of Physics in Presidency College, where we studied more or less at the same time, now a university. He did his undergraduate as well as postgraduate in physics from Jadavpur University, and his PhD from the Inter-University Center for Astronomy and Astrophysics at Pune, where he studied with the famous astronomer, the famous space scientist, Professor Jayant Vishnu Narlikar. He was a postdoctoral fellow of Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. He was associated with a number of distinguished academic institutions, including the Institute for Advanced Studies in Iran, the University of Cambridge in England, and the Manchester Institute of Science and Technology in the United Kingdom. He's a fellow of the Royal Astronomical Society and a member of the International Astronomical Union. And I just heard from him that in the 16 months since he refurbished the MP Birla Planetarium, he had 1 million visitors, which is an all-time record. So on behalf of everybody here, we congratulate him on that remarkable achievement. And please join me, therefore. That's all I have to say. Like all of you, I'm looking forward to an exciting talk where we are looking forward to learning many new things and also the latest updates on the mission Moon. So that's all I have to say now for now. Thank you for being here. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Devi Prasad Duwari to speak on Destination Moon, the Indian story.
Before you start, Dr. Duwari, may I request Dr. Jayanta Sengupta to hand over a memento on behalf of Victoria Memorial Hall to the speaker of this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, now it is Destination Moon. On the moon, there are no signals for your mobile phone. But unfortunately, here there are signals. So please do put your mobile phones on silent or switch them off completely. So with that, over to Dr. Devi Prasad Duwari.
A very good evening to you all. It's a tremendous pleasure for me and an honor, really, not just for saying, to be invited at the Victoria Memorial, the icon of the city of Kolkata, one of the icons, one of the landmarks. And obviously, it's such a pleasant experience to be invited by one of your very old friend, almost 40 years old friendships, the director of this place. So basically, it's my really thank you, not only from my side, but from the neighbors of the Birla Planetarium that I'm coming from. So we are almost neighbors, and this is visiting the next house, hoping to get a fantastic treat, which I've already started getting by way of his kind words. And I hope when you will be going out of this lecture, you'll be looking at the sky a little bit and observe the moon with some special interest. First of all, the subject of astronomy itself. Since today I have a little more than 15 minutes, I can talk a little more. Thousands of years back, when our ancestors used to look into the sky, they used to wonder, what is sky? Where is sky? What is the position of the earth with respect to the sky? What are those lighted dots that we call stars? And is there any connection between the stars and the earth? With these set of questions and queries, the subject of astronomy was born. So astronomy can be considered as one of the oldest subjects that human minds have dwelt upon. At the same time, given the huge number of news items in television channels and newspapers that you get to see, you get an idea that it is also one of the most happening subjects in the recent times. Astronomy as a subject has the power, it can tell you what was the physical situation in this particular room, in this area, millions of years back. At the same time, it can give you a hint what can happen to this place millions of years later. So spanning a vast expanse of space and time, the subject that deals is astronomy. And scientists all over the world have realized that soon the 21st century will be termed the century for astronomy and astrophysics. Why? Because they have realized to go deeper into the meaning of nature, that is to go deeper into science, our earthly laboratories, terrestrial laboratories, has coming up with limitations. But if you look into the sky every now and then, you come across objects, events, which are more fascinating than our imagination, which are more powerful than any amount of power that we can create on our labs. And that is the reason the sky is now looked upon as a science laboratory for our future generations. As a result, what has happened in the last 3-4 decades mostly, a huge amount of effort internationally is going on to understand the skies, using all sorts of resources. Just to give you an idea, in this inhospitable terrain in the Pyrenees mountain of France, they have built this observatory called Pic du Midi. The cost of building this observatory was $300 million. One of the smallest island in the Hawaiian archipelago called Mauna Kea. On top of Mauna Kea, 6 countries have created 9 observatories. The smallest one cost is around $500 million. So that gives you an idea what a tremendous amount of resources is being spent to understand the sky. Eventually, you'll be very happy to know the largest telescope, the largest observatory is not yet born. The work has started in 2014, and hopefully by 2020, it is going to be commissioned. The world's largest telescope will be called 30-meter telescope. A telescope with a 30-meter diameter mirror at the heart of it. The cost of building this telescope is so large that not a single country is able to build it. 5 countries are collaborating to build this telescope: USA, Canada, Australia, China, and India. 2014, in October, the then Prime Minister declared in the Lok Sabha that the Indian contribution for building this telescope will be 1,700 crore rupees for one instrument. And that tells you, in India, there is a tremendous amount of push to understand the sky and go ahead with studies and research in astrophysics and astronomy. Night sky. Thousands of years back, our ancestors used to look into the night sky and they used to wonder what is the meaning behind those lighted dots. They couldn't find an answer, but in their desperation, what they did, they chose different parts of the sky, identified closely spaced stars, joined those stars through straight lines and created imaginary figures. In this way, the whole sky was divided into 88 regions, each region being governed by an imaginary figure, which we today call constellations or Taramandal. But as days progressed, we realized that no, these stars are not just imaginary figures, but they are actually part of our cosmos, and that we stay in a system called a solar system where sun is a star and there are planets going around it. But even with the case of the sun, earth and the moon, which you think are nowadays being taught at nursery 1 or nursery 2, there are a lot of fascinating facts. For example, if the younger generation in your house calls you and tells that, today I have learned in the school that Earth is going around the sun. What is the average velocity? At what speed? How many of you know? Simple question. 29.5 kilometer per second. Imagine a car in 1 second moving 30 kilometers. You'll say, nah, it's not possible. But you're forgetting, you, me, 780 crore people and millions of life existing on the surface of the earth. Every point of our existence, we are moving at a velocity of 30 kilometers. Though you are thinking you are sitting tight, I'm thinking I'm standing straight. Amazing. But the focus slowly was onto the nearest object, the moon. Because for thousands of years, moon has created a lot of stories, a lot of mythologies about its existence. I hope it is not doing a twinkling, twinkling thing, right? Right, okay. A lot of stories. And we have realized that there are certain aspects of moon which can be correlated with our human lives, right? With the practices and sort of behavioral pattern of human being. I do not know whether that is correlated, but that generated a tremendous amount of interest among the common mind about the moon. Starting from our childhood stories that there is somebody sitting up there doing something, to the later period when Galileo saw it through a telescope and found out there are funny things like huge craters on the surface of the moon, which nobody believed at that time because moon was considered to be the perfect orb, the perfect globe, right? Because if you see the moon in the full moon night, it looks a perfect globe, but it is not perfect. But later on, there were people, like this 1865 book written by Jules Verne, where he spoke about from Earth to the moon, where a particular sort of club or something like organization was trying to build a huge cannon where they will put 3 of their top bosses inside and fire the cannon and send them to the moon. So this concept was there, 1865. And people realized that soon it will come to a reality. But let me talk about the moon a little bit. Is moon important to us, apart from for the motivation of writing poems? The answer is very much yes. Why? Why? Because you all know tides occur because moon is there. You may be asking, okay, what's the big deal? Why should you mention about tides here today? My friend, you have all learned in your childhood days, life first occurred on the oceans. So how did it come onto the land? Suddenly they grew leg and climbed onto the land? No. Every day, high tide used to wash ashore multicellular organisms. Water used to go down. They used to get stranded on the land and used to get killed. For millions of years, they got the adaptation of staying alive on land. And from there, different things happened, different lives happened. Monkeys occurred, and from monkeys, we have arrived. So that I'm standing here today is because tides were there. Now, if I ask you, just to give you a simple perception of a normal man, if I ask you, why does tide occur? You'll see everybody knows this answer. Moon is attracting the water on the earth, creating the tides. But my friend, even in your class 10 or 11, if you have learned a little bit of Newton's laws of gravity, and if you ask your cousin or your brother or sister or your son or daughter, can you do a small calculation? And they will tell you, sun attracts earth 173 times more than the moon does. That's why earth is going around the sun. Then why do you say it is moon which is attracting the water on the earth? You'll say moon is nearby. But in the formula m1 m2 by r square, the distance is taken into account. See, we think about it. We always say moon is attracting. The answer is tide is not a force. It is rather the resultant of quite a number of force over unit distance. And that is the reason, since moon is 384,000 kilometers away and sun is 15 crore kilometers away, moon wins. But a lot of our teachers have never told us in our childhood days, sun also attracts the water on the earth. Do you know how much? 47% than the moon does, not a small amount. Now let me ask you, all learned people, a simple question. Suppose I am the earth, over me there is a layer of water, moon comes on this side, because of the moon's presence, water bulges in this direction. People staying in this geographical region will see a high tide. This geographical region after 24 hours will come back over here because earth is spinning. By that time moon may have shifted a little bit. So roughly after 24 hours I should have another high tide, right? But how many high tides a day? Why? If high tides occur because I'm facing the moon, why there will be two high tides? The answer is a little simple, but I'm telling it in a simple way. I'm not going into centrifugal and all sorts of forces. Suppose I am the earth, over me there is a layer of water, moon comes on this side, because of the moon's presence, water bulges in this direction, earth also gets attracted. But since water is light, it will go this much, earth will shift a little bit. And as it shifts a little bit, there is an apparent increase from the water level on this side. So people staying here will also see a high tide. So next time you go to Millennium Park or to Digha and see a high tide, just for a fraction of a second you tell yourself, I'm seeing this high tide now. At this very point of time, in the rivers of Mexico, high tides are occurring. Mexico is bang opposite to West Bengal. So that is the reason two high tides a day. Once I am facing the moon, once when I'm 180 degrees away from the moon. And the day the sun and the moon comes on the same side, at least in Bengali language, you read in the Anandabajar Bortoman Ajkal, Ajke Shara Sharir Ban Ashbe ba Kotaler Ban Ashbe. Ban or spring tide happens the day sun and the moon attracts on the same side. Another interesting thing involving moon is eclipse. I will tell you why it is interesting. Because there was a tremendous amount of discovery about our presence, about our situation, about our cosmic environment, because moon was there. That is eclipse. Sun one side, moon at the middle, earth on the other side, sun's rays falling onto the moon, moon shadow falling onto a small patch of space, and people staying on that patch of space at that point of time will see as if the sun has vanished. See for yourself, taken by a satellite, how the shadow of the moon has fallen on the globe of the earth. Next picture is very dramatic. As the earth is spinning, see, this is a true picture, how the shadow of the moon crosses the globe of the earth. This is called the path of total solar eclipse. At the highest point, it can be 1,000 kilometers in its width. It was during an eclipse, sun was discovered as a new avatar. They found out from the surface of the sun, milky white radiation coming out, which cannot be seen on other times. When they asked themselves a question, what is causing this? The scientists were amazed with the answer. They found out from the surface of the sun, every second on an average, 16 lakh tons, 1.6 million tons of charged particles are coming out. These charged particles, as they move through the magnetic field of the sun, they produce this beautiful milky white radiation. The average velocity of these charged particles are 450 kilometers per second. With that speed, they have enough energy. If they hit any atom or molecule, it will instantaneously break up. So basically that means tomorrow morning when the sun comes up, if I stand on the sun, under the sun, this charged particle coming from the sun, the moment they hit my body, within fraction of a second, my whole body should disintegrate. Poof, it will just evaporate. But I'm alive. How? I'll come to that. For that, we have to talk a little bit of the solar system. These are all the true color pictures of the main avatars. First one is the sun, our nearest star. You have all learned in your childhood days, sun is a ball of gas. But tell me, my friend, if you take a football, pump in a lot of colored gas, cut open the football, will the gas inside remain like a ball? It will diffuse out. Then how come sun being a ball of gas is not diffusing out into the sky? What does the scientist say? According to the scientist, 460 crore years back, 460 crore, 4.6 billion, a huge cloud of gas and dust was floating in space. This cloud was made up of 91% hydrogen, 8% helium, 1% other elements. The average temperature of this gas cloud was minus 240 degrees centigrade. At minus 240 degrees centigrade, out of the four fundamental forces of nature, only one type of force comes into play, and it's the force of self-gravity, Abhikarshaja bal. And as a result, the gas in the periphery gets attracted towards the center. As the gas goes towards the central density rises. As the density builds up, the pressure builds up. As the pressure builds up, temperature builds up. And starting from minus 240 degrees centigrade, the temperature rose to a fascinating level of 1.5 crore degrees centigrade. At 1.5 crore degrees centigrade, something happens. Centers of atoms are called nucleus. 4 hydrogen nuclei, they come together as if fuse together and produce a helium nucleus. In our laboratories, the scientists have been able to perform this thermonuclear fusion reaction, but they cannot control it. That is the reason they use it to explode a hydrogen bomb. But inside the sun, in a very regulated manner, when 4 hydrogen gets into a helium, huge amount of energy is produced. As the energy tries to come out, it produces a back pressure called radiation pressure. And this radiation pressure, when it exactly balances and matches the inward force of gravity, sun being a ball of gas remains there hanging for millions of years. Believe me, my friend, it's an astounding story. One of my PhD students, she did a calculation and showed that if there is only 2% difference between either two forces, either sun will shrink or sun will become bigger. And if that happens, in a small calculation you can show, within 15 days, 85% of life on earth will perish. We think we are so powerful, right? Either muscle or intelligence or money. And some places, if you don't have anything, forget about it. Political patronage, forget about it. We are all here because 15 crore kilometers away in a ball of gas, two opposite forces are continuously cancelling every second of our existence. That's an amazing thing. Three regions outside the sun, photosphere, chromosphere, and little out, and corona. The word comes from Latin, means crown. And if you take sun, sometimes it becomes very active. Just to give you an idea, you will not even believe. Do you know how much money US government has spent in 2012 for this single photograph? If you don't believe me, go to the internet and check. $1.2 billion for one photograph. Why? Because only in the last 30-40 years, scientists have realized sun is not only providing the energy for us to be alive, sun is interacting intimately with each one of us individually every second of our existence, even in the night time. So to understand sun, to predict how it should behave, there is a tremendous amount of rush. Sun is not a smooth object like an egg yolk in the early morning or late evening. Tremendous amount of explosions are happening every second. Thousands of tons of gas are getting thrown up to a height of 20 to 30,000 kilometers, making beautiful arch and loops falling back onto the surface. Sometimes they get thrown out with such a force, they get detached from the surface of the sun and flow past the whole solar system like a solar wind. Next picture, you will not believe it. It was taken in 2015. Sun. Do you know how big is this? 3 Earth will go inside this gap. That big. And that is sun. Right? We take it for granted. Morning aata hai, shaam ko chala jata hai. Phir hua. Very, very interesting object. Whatever. These charged particles, when they come to the Earth, as I told you, believe me, I'm not joking. If they hit you, me, this building, anything, within fraction of a second, poof. Why we're alive? Today you get to know we are all alive on Earth because of a series of accidents. By accident, Earth behaves like a bar magnet. Around the Earth, there is like a peels of an orange. There is an invisible magnetic shield. This charged particle, they come and slam onto the magnetic shield, cannot enter, flow past the Earth, and we think we are the king and queen of ourselves. But if you remember your class 7-8 drawing the magnetic lines of force of a bar magnet, in the north and south polar region, there is a gap. These charged particles, they do enter the Earth's atmosphere through this gap. Before hitting the Earth, destroying everything, they interact with the air molecules and make them glow. And what we get to see? Auroras. Aurora borealis in north and Aurora australis in south. But in 2006, I was in the northernmost part of Norway with one of my friends. I still remember that the temperature there was minus 37 degrees centigrade. In our small camera, Aurora borealis. It's an amazing experience. And it tells you, though sun we think is very far away, it is interacting every second with Earth. If it does a little bit this way, that way, just raise your hands and wait for things to happen. Nobody, no force on Earth can stop it. Other objects in the solar system, how did they happen? At the initial phase when sun was getting born from the disk of gas, dust and gas condensed, coagulated, coalesced, gave birth to very hot spherical objects. For millions of years, they dissipated away the heat, and at least the first 4, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, became rocky, whereas Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune are mostly made up of gas. These are all true colored pictures of the planets, and I'm not going to talk about it except this little red one, Mars. Why red? It is rusting on the surface. Ferrous and ferric oxide covers the whole region. And it's very interesting because scientists have found sediments of white sediments, which signifies presence of water ice. You will say, let there be water ice. Why are we bothered? The answer is amazing. Just 1 minute. 1996, a joint USA-UK survey team was doing a survey in Antarctica, kilometer after kilometer, pristine white snow. Suddenly they found something black sticking out. Went there, found a 18 kilogram piece of loose rock. which is not supposed to be there. Took the rock to the laboratory. Amazing results. You must be knowing that you, me, the cat, the monkey, the dog, any animal, any plant on earth, we are made up of only 20 amino acids. Amino acid synthesized will produce protein, and the RNA and DNA structure of our cell is made up of protein only. 69 types of amino acids were discovered in a single piece of rock. And through calculation, it was shown the rock has come scattered from Mars and landed onto Earth. After that, computer simulation has shown every year, on an average, few hundred kilograms of rock come scattered from Mars and land onto Earth. If the Martian soil or subsoil has some bacteria, virus, parasite, now my friend, sitting on a rock, if it lands onto the Earth, believe me, within 6 months to 3 years, all the life will go. Our doctors will not even understand why we are falling sick, because those bacteria, virus, parasites have never been seen on Earth. So for the human generation to go on, we have to know whether there is life on Mars. It's not just people are spending money like that. And 2008, Phoenix landed onto the surface of Mars with a robotic arm, scratched a little bit. I'm showing you very rare photographs, this one. On the 20th day, after a little bit of scratching, they found a white sediments. People started jumping up and down, water ice. See these 3 pebbles over here? After 4 days, not to be seen. This is the first time the human civilization have found proof of water ice on the surface of Mars. After that, in 2012, Curiosity went, sent back a lot of data, but still we are puzzled. And then came 15th August 2012. The then Prime Minister declared in the Lok Sabha, India is ready for Mars mission. Believe me, my friends, I'm not joking. I have it in my laptop. I can show you. Throughout the world, everybody started laughing. The Xinhua press agency, the biggest Chinese press agency, 16th August, the lead story was, Indian scientists are going to prove themselves as clowns and jokers in the front of the international community. Yes. To make the long story short, 6th of December 2013, when Mangalyaan Mars orbiter mission was successfully sent up into space, sitting atop a nose cone of a PSLV X-25 rocket from Sriharikota, next day, Xinhua said, people of the world beware, Indian government is capable of successfully launching intercontinental ballistic missiles. And 24th September 2014, when India became the first country in the world, in its first attempt, successfully entered Mangalyaan around the orbit of Mangal, Mars. Next day, that's amazing. The Chinese government and scientists are very keen and eager to collaborate with Indian scientists. That was the statement. So, believe me, geopolitically, it is one of the biggest steps India has ever taken in its 73 years of independence, geopolitically. We are cynical. We always say, 2000 rupee note ka piche wo Mangalyaan ka picture, publicity. Absolutely not, believe me, my friend. Lot of people, especially I'm a very proud Bengali, very proud of that I'm Bengali, but I don't like everything Bengali, right? Especially 2 things. What you are saying is wrong, what I am saying is correct. Everybody says that. And if you have done something good, I will not sit quiet until I find a hole in it. And our way of expression is, oh, very good, tremendously good. 30 seconds gap, but, but always comes. That is the Bengali culture. So I have been told n number of times, whatever you say, 27% of population still cannot have 2 square meals a day, BPL, in India. And 480 crore rupees spent on a mission called Mangalyaan. Isn't it a wastage? I tell them, please don't mind, for the last 17, 18 years, every year in India, on an average, 1800 crore of rupees per year is spent on a tamasha. And we have named it IPL. We don't think that's a wastage of money. This is wastage of money. A batsman hits a 4 ladies will start jumping up and down and we say, what a beautiful thing has happened. How cynical we have become. Just understand that. Whatever. 24th September, Mars orbiter mission successfully enters Martian orbit. Enough of it. I have hardly any time. Half an hour maybe. Moon. Today our focus. Isn't it beautiful? Absolutely. This is the side of the moon that you get to see from the earth. And this is the sea, more or less smooth with little poke marks. This is the side which we don't get to see, the other side of the moon. First thing you will say, what do you mean by other side? You should know, moon is spinning around itself, 27.3 days. And it is also spinning around the earth exactly in 27.3 days. So as it spins, it keeps the same face towards the earth. So you always get to see only one face of the moon, right? How did moon happen? No, God created moon, believe me. Now the proof is almost there. 99% of scientists believe 452 crore years back, a huge ball of rock came and slammed onto the earth with such a force, huge amount of surface material got gouged up and was thrown up in space. It couldn't go away forever, but going to a very vast distance for billions of years, it condensed, coagulated, coalesced, and has given birth to our moon. This theory goes by the name the collision ejection theory. 99% of scientists believe in this. Do you know why? If you go out after this lecture, as you are passing through the garden, take a little bit of clay sample. Tomorrow you go to any college and ask in the chemistry department if they can analyze it for you. And you will find the average density of this clay sample topsoil is 3.3 grams per cc. And if somebody in the future brings you a little bit of the lunar soil, exactly 3.3 grams per cc, same density. That is the reason this theory is supported. There are other theories, co-creation theory, capture theory, fission theory, but this is the thing. And what happened to Earth, do you know? It started life on Earth because forever it got tilted by 23.5 degrees and the Pacific Ocean was created. So that's an amazing thing. 3 types of geomorphology or geology on Earth, on Moon. There are something called craters, 30,000, this is too sensitive. 1 to 100 kilometers, typically in diameter, and named after, believe me, famous scientists, mathematicians, philosophers. For example, Kepler, Aristotle, Plato. Indian names are there. Bhabha, Shishir Kumar Mitro, C.V. Raman. But one thing puzzles me. 2 years back, one crater was named Shah Rukh Khan. Seriously. So that tells you, if you have money, you can do anything. Science is not needed, right? You can find out in his 40th or some birthday, a crater was named after him. Then there are some plain lands which are called Mare or Maria. Maria means sea, and very, very poetic names. Sea of tranquility, sea of nectar, sea of serendipity, all sorts of names. And mountain highlands, right, hills, which are caused by the violent impacts of huge asteroids which thrust up the lunar highlands. And you can see for yourself, moon has been mapped to death. Almost every dot in the moon has been mapped and it has got some name. I'm not going to ask you to read everything, but this tells you that we know extensively at least the map of the moon. And scientists, people, the societies, they realized we have to make a journey. And starting from 1957 onwards, this is an imagination, forget about it. Starting from 1957 onwards, n number of missions to moon, not to directly to land like our Vikram lander, but to go around or fly past and take pictures of the moon. On the other side, they wanted to know what is there. Who reached there first? Russia. But they never came to land on it. So what they did, they said, we came here, nobody came here. What should we do? They threw a metal ball made up of hexagonal pieces where CCCP was written. So that as it will fall, it will crash and all those small metal tablets will get implanted on the moon. It's a nice thing. India followed it sometimes later. I will talk about it. But in 1969, 20th of July, Indian time, 21st of July, the first step happened. Don't tell me all those conspiracy theories. All nonsense. Because first thing they say is, see, this flag is flying. There is no atmosphere. You are forgetting there is a spring attached here. See for yourself. Americans also knew the flag will not fly. But it's a prestige thing to show to USSR. So they put a string there so that it will flutter and the flag will flutter. N number of people see flag should not fly. It is flying because of this. See yourself. Okay. So that tells you, starting from 1969 to 1972, 6 Apollo missions landed onto moon, but almost always near the equatorial region. And later on, other missions went on, but you can see mostly in the northern hemisphere. Nothing, one tried, but it failed, but nothing happened in the southern part. So it was an uncharted territory. So what was the object for moon missions after 6 times it has been invaded by human beings? People realize we should explore, because you have to understand the origin and composition of moon so that we can at least understand how Earth came about. It is a good destination for humans living low Earth orbit to practice techniques that would eventually be used on Mars exploration. And moon can be the first stepping stone for nations establishing robotic planetary exploration. In addition, they found sunlight does tremendous things to the moon. Huge amount of sunlight falling onto the surface of the moon, the X-ray part, energizes the material on the surface and they emit. And from that emission, they found magnesium, aluminium, silicon, other minerals, uranium, thorium, potassium present on the surface of the moon. And that started the idea. Everything is getting less and less on Earth because of the huge population explosion. Fantastic resource there. Not only that, the magical resource was, I'll coming to that, but there were huge amount of material which can be mined from the moon, including radioactive elements. But the most important was something called helium-3, which is not present on the surface of the Earth because it decays with reaction with the atmosphere. But at the moon, since there is not much atmosphere, there is huge amount of helium-3. Without going into a lot of science, why is helium-3 so special? Because, my friend, if you can bring down to India 3 tons of liquefied helium, it can provide total electricity for entire India for 1 year. Only 3 tons. Without any radioactive damage. A helium-3 plant can be next door to your house. Nothing happens to you. China knows about it also. So all the countries now they are doing, why you are going to moon? For scientific exploration. Only China said last year, forget scientific, I want to get the helium-3. They are clear at least. Right. So, moon contains 10 times more energy in the helium-3 on surface than all the economically recoverable fossil fuels on the Earth. This is now proven. That's why moon. Don't think the astronauts will get more motivated to write poems sitting on the surface, which you see 384,000 kilometers away. So in the past, our interest in space and the moon was driven primarily by scientific curiosity and an interest in understanding what was out there. But this voyage of discovery slowly transformed into a voyage of profit. That's the reality. No politician will say this, but scientifically, this is the main aspect now. So return to the moon happened. Huge number of, starting from Japan, European Space Agency, NASA, other Chinese Space Agency, including small countries, they have sent spacecraft to look into the moon, right? But how can this happen? How can the mining happen? Because presence of humans are necessary to exploit the moon. I cannot just give an order to Vikram lander, hey, do some mining, bring back. How it will happen? Never happens. So you have to have presence in the humans. But you need water. Because my friend, not to drink water. 70% of our body is water. 40% of a plant body is water. Our whole life is nothing but just an aquatic cells. But there is no surface liquid water on moon. So the next understanding was, look for water. You cannot carry it there. 1 kilogram of water, 1 liter of water at present cost, from Earth to moon, if you transfer, the cost will be around $2,100. 1 liter, 1 bottle of Kinley or whatever, $2,100. So it's not viable. So we have to see, and that's the reason these 2 spacecraft called Clementine and Lunar Prospector in 94 and 99 gave us preliminary gave us preliminary evidence that there may be deposits of water ice in the lunar poles. And there comes our ISRO, which started in 1969, holding the hands of giants. Mostly, you must be knowing his name, Vikram Sarabhai. That's why Vikram. And there are other peoples as well. And Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was very key, instrumental in forming of this. So though 3 years back, just to do something, they hired a rocket, or sort of asked for a small rocket, sounding rocket from USA, and that was launched. But officially we started our space program around 15th August 1969. The Sriharikota Satish Dhawan Space Center was created in 71, and first satellite, Indian satellite Aryabhatta, was sent in 75. Satellite telecommunication started 77. Bhaskara, experimental satellite for Earth observation, launched. 79, experimental launch of SLV-3. 81, Apple, ISRO's first communication satellite launched using, not here, from French Guiana, using Ariane space rocket. 87, launch of advanced SLV. 93, 2001, 2008, launches Chandrayaan. 14, Mars Orbiter mission. And 15, Chandrayaan-2 to be launched. This is the history of ISRO in one slide. The official vision of ISRO is to harness space technology for national development. And I like this because they have not said, no, we are doing science. They have already said it. National development while pursuing space science research and planetary exploration. This is the statistics. Till today, 101 spacecraft missions by ISRO. 72 of them is launch missions, meaning sending satellites. 9 student satellites, 2 re-entry missions. And see this number. India at present in the topmost agency for sending satellites to space. 32 countries, including USA NASA, regularly sends their satellite through ISRO. Do you know why? This statistics will never be published in any internet because it is very politically motivated. Let me tell you the story. I heard it from the NASA director in one of his Christmas lecture. In the last 62 years of NASA, among all the spacecraft that has been sent up to space, successfully they have been put in the correct orbit 74% times. And in the last 43 years of ISRO, among all the spacecraft that has been sent onto space, successfully they have been put onto the correct orbit 93% times. We do not know the facts. That's why we want to send our kids to NASA. Right? That is the whole problem. ISRO is one of the most successful launchers of spacecraft in the whole world, and everybody acknowledges it. Don't underestimate your own powers, right? See the advent of ISRO. The rocket cone sitting on a cycle and getting lifted. And this one is amazing. The first satellite, Apple, shifted on a bullock cart. From there, Mangalyaan, Chandrayaan. Amazing. And these are the two architects, one, the first one, and the next phase, APJ Abdul Kalam and Vikram Sarabhai. Right? So these are very rare photographs, but tells you how from this we have metamorphosized into this. It's an amazing story. Believe me, if you read some of the stories about this Chandrayaan-2 technocrats, there are people for 3 months they haven't gone to their home. They sleep on their working table. Voluntarily. They don't ask for what is happening, no holidays, are they giving me compensatory off or some extra overtime? No. That is the level of dedication. And why dedication? Because they're happy, they're creating something. They're breaking barriers. Most of us miss this challenge within ourselves. We think finding a comfort zone is the best thing in life, not challenges. But our people, our countrymen are doing this. Chandrayaan-1 was a real fantastic thing. This is a 1:30 scaled down model, actual model of Chandrayaan-1. This was actually given to me by Mahadevan Nair to me as a gift. So I took a photograph and got this. Chandrayaan wanted to do a lot of things. Try to find out the physical properties of the moon, the bulk chemistry of the moon, to find out the nature of the lunar crust, to find out what is there on the other side, and to focus on spatial regions in polar region, specially called SPAR, South Pole Aitken region, shortly SPAR, right? And also some selected basins. And they were quite successful. That is why Chandrayaan-2 scientists thought they will land near this, right? So that's an amazing stuff. What was the objective? You can see for yourself, I don't have to read it. To find out presence of these, to find out what is the effect of solar radiation on the atmosphere, and to do a 3D mapping. These were the instruments. Out of 11 instruments, 5 were made by ISRO scientists, 6 foreign scientists. Why? No, don't think we didn't have the capacity to build instrument. 7 countries requested government of India to please have their instrument, 14 of them, on Chandrayaan-1. Do you know why? 76%, 94%. Out of 14, 6 were chosen. But these were all terrain mapping camera. Don't look at the abbreviation. This thing, right. The observation period was for 2 years. And 2008, 22nd October, 6:22 a.m., PSLV from the Sriharikota firing range, it was sent. And India did something. 14th of November, the birthday of Jawaharlal Nehru, it threw a cube, a box, a metal box, named it as MIP, Moon Impactor Probe, so that it will crash onto the surface of the moon with the Indian flags imprinted on it. Russia. Same concept, right? And it happened that way. And the images that do you know what is the size of this from a height of 100 kilometers? 50 meters. That's the resolution. One of the best camera ever built in the world. And this Chandrayaan-2 camera is much better than this, right? It found huge amount of magnesium, aluminum, silicon signatures in the X-ray spectra of the moon. These are actual data. And pyroxene, huge amount of iron. Pyroxene is mostly an indicator of iron. And also found from the surface of the sun, as charged particles, mostly protons, are coming and hitting, because of the presence of hydroxyl ion, water molecules are instantly getting made in the atmosphere and in the surface. For the first time. And for the first time in 50 years of moon exploration, it was Chandrayaan-1 who told us presence of 60,000 crore liters of water ice in the North Polar region. No country has been able to tell. And that is the reason throughout the world, every country sat and said, oh my God, India is capable of doing this apart from all this. That's why every country is now praising ISRO, because they know ISRO has proven it. And human habitation can happen using this resource. So don't underestimate ISRO, right? Lot of cynicism in the last 30 hours. ISRO should have done this, They should have done that. Forget it. How many of you even know even a screw head from a simple electronic parts? And we think we have all become experts, space science. Everybody giving comments. That is our nature. After that, NASA sent LRO, Lunar Rover, and LCROSS, which actually threw a projectile into one of the South Pole craters called Cabeus, and found huge amount of water ice at the depth of the whole trough, which never gets the sunlight. And everybody was sure, lot of water on the South Pole, but who will go there? That's where ISRO comes. The story is like this because of having, these are all artist impression, don't think these are actual things. Human habitation on the moon. 2008 onwards, Chandrayaan-2 plan started. Soft landing the probe, sample analysis, robotic arm, return to orbiter, which was not this time, and Earth re-entry. This was the initial objective. Why? Because, see the actual picture at that time planning. It's totally different from today's picture. Why? Because this was supposed to be built by Roscosmos, Russian Space Agency. And this is the first plan diagram, actual plan diagram by the Russian scientist for the lander and the rover. They said, let us collaborate. India and Russia, long friends. India will make the orbiter, Russia will make the lander, and India will make the rover. Fine. MOU was signed in November 2008. But long story, 2012, USSR said, that time it has become Russia. Russia said, sorry, probably we cannot provide you with the lander. They said, why? We have already progressed. The launch date is 2016 or 2015. No. We cannot progress. Something is happening. And in 2014, something happened. There was a mission called Phobos Grant Mission, collaboration with NASA and Russia, where Russia was supposed to provide the lander. And it failed miserably. It crashed. And they have planned Vikram exactly on the lines of Phobos Grant Mission. So Russia said, forget out, we are backing off. And by 2014, they said, sorry, we cannot give you the lander. ISRO technocrats became very edgy. My God, it's a prestige issue in the world. What will you do? Believe me, my friend, all these plans went awry, but from 2014, ISRO decided we should go alone. And that was the biggest challenge. NASA, European Space Agency, JAXA, Japanese Space Agency, Israeli Space Agency, they said, come on, you should take our help. You have no capability to think of this level of thing. But somehow it started. To try out the basic evolutionary theory of the moon and all other things. So rover, orbiter craft, which is Chandrayaan-2, and lander, which is Vikram, started happening. These are the planned things. Money-wise, 380 crore for Chandrayaan-1, 960 crores, now it is 978, 960 crore for Chandrayaan-2. 14 instruments, 13 Indian, 1 NASA requested, please send this to me. It's not an instrument for experimentation, just a laser reflectometer to be placed onto the moon so that every day laser pulse will be sent from Arizona, gets reflected back to find out the distance between Earth and moon. Do you know why? Every year, moon is shifting away 3.6 centimeters from Earth. That's why continuously you have to monitor it. And ISRO scientists planned for a first space mission to conduct a soft landing, South Pole, first Indian expedition to attempt a soft landing on the lunar surface with homegrown technology, first Indian mission to explore the lunar terrain, rover, and fourth country ever to soft land on the lunar surface. Right. Chosen spacecraft, chosen rocket, the newly developed GSLV Mark III. You should know there's a story. 10 years back, when there was a tremendous amount of sanction from Russia for the second Pokhran test experiment India did, no country is touching India, nothing. But India needs rocket, bigger rockets. So Russia said, okay, we'll give you some help. So 6 cryogenic engines were supplied to India for building the GSLV rocket. Out of 6, 5 failed. And India realized it's a wastage of money, time, everything. So they decided to build their own rocketry system. And when we say what these IITs are doing, forget it. 6 IITs have extensively contributed for building the rockets of GSLV. 6 IITs together. We hardly know. Apart from a company which you see the name of the company every day probably at your home, Godrej and Boyce. These are the inert stories. And another called Walchandnagar Industries from Pune. Right. And this was the artist impression of Chandrayaan-2 orbiter sitting on the top like a hat, Vikram and Pragyan inside this thing. Right. So Vikram lander, 1471 kilogram, including the 27 kg Pragyan inside, and orbiter 2379. Just to give you the quantum jump, a PSLV rocket can lift up to 1500 kilogram. A GSLV Mark III indigenously built can lift up to 4.5 tons. Think of the capability shift in one go. And this is actually a scale model 1:30 of Chandrayaan-2. In your mind, expand it 30 times, you will get actual spacecraft. Right. This is actually the breadboard, the inner circuitry of the rover, six-wheeled rover, Pragyan. Right. You'll not get this photograph. You'll get it after 3 months, but not now. You'll get these things, right? Because so, orbiter mass will be 682 kilogram, capable of carrying 1697 kilogram of fuel. Vikram, the lander, weight is 626, capable of carrying 845 kilogram of fuel, and Pragyan with 27 kgs, no fuel because it will be just going around with solar power. So this is the more or less the summary. You have all now by know. And by that time, January this year, something happened. China was getting edgy. Because last year it sent one spacecraft called Chang'e 3 and it crash landed onto moon. So they wanted desperately to show at least we are better than India, right? So what they did, they sent a spacecraft on the other side of the moon. And this is a picture taken by Chang'e 4 of the South Pole. This is the Earth side, this is the other side. And it landed on the other side of the moon successfully, right? But on the other side. And see the resolution of this, the Chinese spacecraft is amazingly good. So people started building up. This is the orbiter, actual reality. This is quite, quite costly. At least for the ladies, it is very, it's not pure gold, but it's gold impregnated polymer to stop the charged particle coming from the sun entering through the metal shield and destroying the electronics. Not for fun, right? And this is the actual. You can see through the size of this human being, this is the orbiter, and this is Vikram. Sometimes the villain, sometimes the hero. Every hour it is shifting, last one day, right, whatever it is. And these are actual true photographs. This is the ramp. After it will land, after Vikram is supposed to land, 4 hours after that, a door will open. Through this ramp, Pragyan will roll down. That was the idea. Now, they knew to have this sort of huge amount of mass, a GSLV rocket will not do. So, Indian scientists developed total indigenous booster rocket called SS-200. Right? These are booster rockets strapped onto it. I'm showing you very rare photographs. This is inside the vehicle assembly building. It's a 46-meter high building. With floors, you can build at your required height. And see, this is the main engine and the ring, secondary engine, all sorts of things. I'm not going into details, but this is the nose cone and the rocket. This is first, and then this will be brought and placed under it so that it will go into the nose cone of GSLV. So you can understand it was a huge, complex experiment, right? Now let me show you. I think I can get caught by the police for this because this is totally restricted, but this is academic purpose. This is Sriharikota. Hardly anybody knows. This is a lake called Pulikat Lake. Like Chilka, freshwater, there is 80 kilometers north of Chennai, there is this Pulikat Lake. And in this dagger-shaped island is the Satish Dhawan Space Center. The residential complex of the scientists are here, around 4 kilometers. This is a huge. And I wanted to show you something which is very, very classified. The launching pad from top. Right. These are very rare photograph. You try to get it in the internet. Right. This is the, from top, the launching pad of ISRO. Second launching pad. The idea is, this is not GSLV, some other. Idea is they assemble the whole rocket into this VAB, Vehicle Assembly Building. And then through a system of communication, they send it to the launching pad. That's Bay of Bengal. And to give you an idea, do you know, we should know about this, how this rocket is moved? America does it lying down because the wind force is too much near the coast. But India somehow have managed to do it like this. In a truck built by Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited with 256 tires made in India. You should be proud, my friend, instead of criticizing. Our people are doing it. Think of building one of these in West Bengal. It will be 4 or 5 year plans. 20 years it will take. This is the launching pad. And this is the actual picture of GSLV Mark III with Chandrayaan-2 coming out of the new vehicle assembly building, which was built because it's a bigger rocket to accommodate the bigger rocket. Right. And it was placed on this launching pad on 13th July, around midnight time. So that 15th July, it can go up. But you all knew the story. 15th July, 55 minutes just before the takeoff, they found a leak happening from this region because of a defect of a ring called O-ring, which is a rubber gasket kind thing. It didn't fit, and because of the cold temperature, it cracked. So, and this can be disastrous. Immediately stopped it. What 50% of people in West Bengal said, see, they launch ki korte pare na ki korbe. And throughout the world, scientists said ISRO did a fantastic job because they could stop it 55 minutes before the liftoff. We could not stop it, and Columbia and Challenger happened for the same reason. 14 people died, 7 plus 7. ISRO could stop it. Try to see the positive side. And next day, 22nd of July, no, not next day, after 7 days, 22nd of July, 2:43 p.m. afternoon, it got lifted off. And with a tremendous force, it lifted up and went up in space. And it was an amazing scene at Sriharikota. This is the reason I'm so happy, because it has united India in some common cause. Not divided by regionalism, not divided by religion, not divided by money power, not divided by political ideologies. All across the spectrum, it was there. This is amazing, right? See this. Have you found this any time? In a cinema hall, they have actually rented out and seeing the liftoff. Feel the pride which you have forgotten to feel, the pride for the country. We only feel proud only for ourselves and our achievements. That is the reason. The idea was to make it go round and round so that it can gather energy from the Earth's gravitational field and become very powerful, and then ultimately insert it into a lunar orbit so that it falls within the gravitational effect of moon, and then it has to reduce power, bring the speed down, and ultimately deorbit 5 times, and then the separation occurs. This is the ISTRAC center near Bangalore. There is another center which is one of the most highly guarded place in India called Bayalulu, right? Bayalulu is 80 kilometers from Bangalore, the Indian Deep Space Network. Literally even a fly cannot go in. Very high security, because from here, India in the future and now will communicate with deep space objects, not going around Earth with Mangalyaan, with others, deep space objects. Right, this is that center. 8 payloads of orbiter to find out the soft X-ray spectrometer, sunlight falling on the surface, creating X-ray, X-rays falling on the surface from the sun, creating radiance, and to monitor it. How much solar X-ray is falling onto the surface and atmosphere, high resolution camera, imaging infrared spectrometer, which has become very famous in last 4 or 5 hours, because it has found the signature of the thermal map of lander. Dual frequency synthetic aperture radar. What will you do? It basically tries to find water. Chandrayaan-2 atmospheric composition analyzer, trying to find what the sunlight is doing to the atmosphere, and dual frequency radio science experiment for communication purposes. Vikram, radio anatomy of moon-bound hypersensitive ionosphere atmosphere, called very, very suggestive name, Rambha. And Chandra's surface thermophysical experiment, what it will do, it will put a very sophisticated thermometer inside and see what is the temperature difference at different levels inside moon. And instrument for lunar seismic activity, whether moon is going through some vibration. Because vibration means like earthquake, moonquake. That means what? Why moonquake happens, earthquake happens? Because of sound wave coming from the inside. all subsonic, but sound wave. So that will tell us what is the internal structure, because sound wave has a property, it will have effect according to the medium through which it is passing. Right. Then Pragyan, alpha particle X-ray spectrometer coming from sun, alpha particles falling, and spectrometer means spectral analysis. If it not happens, this is nobody understands. Fantastic thing. It's a laser source. If the sunlight is not happening, what it will do? It will throw a laser, hit it up, and from the radiation find out what it is. And a laser retroreflector, which was given by NASA. I don't have to go through this one after another. This is from actually the logbook of ISRO. One after another orbit raising. Then the fifth orbit raising. Then Chandrayaan-2 enters lunar trajectory. And then again deorbit, deorbit, deorbit. And September 4 was the last deorbiting for Chandrayaan-2. So basically the same thing happened as planned. And it was said September 7, it is going to land onto the moon. First picture sent by Chandrayaan-2 at a height of 4,700 kilometers from Earth. Quite a good resolution. Second picture, 2,450 kilometers. Then the picture of the moon. Now, only 2,650 kilometers from moon. See the resolution. At what height? 4,375 kilometers. Can you imagine? 4,000 kilometers dure ekta chobi tulche, see the resolution. See for yourself. Don't criticize. See. All the craters coming out, and we all started jumping up and down. There is a Mitra crater, and believe me, at least 10 television channels went to Encyclopedia, Wikipedia, who is Mitra? Oh, there is a fellow called Shishir Kumar Mitra. This is how we worship our scientist. Scientist is Jagadish Chandra Bose or Chhoten Bose, because they are world famous, so everybody knows about them. Shishir Kumar Mitra, nobody knows. Do you know who he is? He was the first pioneer in India to understand the ionosphere of the atmosphere wherefrom the radio waves get reflected back. First person. He became a Sir, Knight, Sir Shishir Kumar Mitra. He was one of the young members of Royal Society, all the time doing his research in Rajabhaja Science College, and hardly any people know about him. That is how we pay respect to our scientists. And how we pay respect to our politicians? Amazing. We lie down. Right? That's the problem. Whatever. This is another, Sommerfeld, you know the name of Sommerfeld. Kirkwood, who found the gap in the asteroid belt. And these are all pictures taken by Chandrayaan-2. The plan was, as you by now know, ad nauseam, you are hearing it in the television channels, it will do a soft landing by firing 4 rockets. But at the last moment, firing only one central rocket, because this dust can create problems to this. But what is the reality? Actually was predicted by the chairman of ISRO. 15 minutes of terror. From the time, from a height of 35 kilometers, as the lander will start descending, from a speed of 6,000 kilometers per hour, it has to come to a level 0 kilometers per hour. Think of it. What a tremendous braking. It has to be done totally by satellite telemetry, right? And see, starting from the descent, it went off, reducing the speed, but around 5 kilometers, suddenly we found it is deviating from the predicted path. But still, scientists were thinking everything will go okay. But 2 minutes before landing and 2.1 kilometers above the surface, we lost contact. Totally, it went off. And you can see in the faces. This is the mission director, a woman, right? Nidhi Kariwal. So, and everybody got puzzled why we lost this. But luckily, just yesterday, we got the news, Chandrayaan-2 lander has been located on moon's surface by thermal imaging from Chandrayaan-2 orbiter. So again, okay, can we find that it is intact, at least it has not broken down. But from 100 kilometers to know about it is so difficult. 2 o'clock today, my friend, they found it. Vikram is intact. It happened just today, 2 o'clock, just 3 hours, 4 hours back I'm talking. And they found it has not landed straight. It has landed on a place where it is standing inclined. So that makes it difficult. And because there is still no communications. But after this talk, I think none of you should have an iota of negativity about this whole thing, because ISRO is marching ahead. 2018, Memorandum of Understanding has been signed with JAXA, Japanese Space Agency, for Chandrayaan-3. Before even they knew what will happen. That has already started. So when Modi said, कोशिश कीजिए हो जाएगा और हम आगे बढ़ना है, he knew whatever he is saying. We have already invested huge amount of resources and money for Chandrayaan-3, 2022 to 2023, right? So ISRO is marching ahead. You may like it, you may not like it. That is science. Because a scientist in its core knows every experiment has 50% chance of failure, 50% chance of success. If there is a failure, and if I say, oh my God, I have failed, what will happen? Nothing. I cannot produce anything. No future experiments will happen. So one of the main aspects of building a scientific temper is to take failure in your stride, learn from it, and move ahead. And that's what ISRO scientists are doing. Don't think he nirlajja, right? এত পয়সা খরচ করে আরো করছে. That is our way of looking into it, right? So my friend, moon is there. There are plans someday, within another 30 years, human habitation. This is all drawing, right? See this. These are actual things. Nobody knows about this. These are super secret projects. NASA has started where humans can stay on the moon, but because of the atmosphere, this thing, they will be moving, but always in a sealed thing. See this. This is already happening. They have now tested, this is very secret, NASA will kill me. In Antarctica, 3 years back, they have tested, this is radiation proof totally, right, where they can stay. And not artist impression. For human beings, see this. Creating the lunar surface. So things are happening. If you take it on your stride, it is good for you. If you lay back, you will fall back. And our India has become an integral part of this movement, of this revolution. Let us all support it. Don't think I'm a government employee. I'm not praising government to get a better promotion next year. I work on a private company. But I feel it in my bones, I should be proud. Because if I am proud, if they are encouraged, they can produce better result, which will raise the profile of the country, which will ultimately go to the development of the country itself, which will ultimately benefit me. Be a little wise. And with that, let us hope Vikram communication will happen. Even if it not happens, that we have found a speck of dust from 100 kilometers above and seeing it intact. How many of you can do that? It's a success. Thank you very much. Sorry, একটু বেশি সময় নিয়ে ফেলেছি।
You have, Professor Duari has done something of a much greater WikiLeaks. He has shown us so many classified pictures, but he has done it in such a fascinating and illuminating way that we could, to explain the nitty-gritties, the enormous efforts that has gone into it in such a easily comprehensible way. Just as we know that scientists progress because they stand on the shoulders of giants, therefore all successes are also something that are built on these apparent failures, but they are actually, they goad us on to further success. So thank you so much from on behalf of everybody. Thank you so much, and I know you have Many questions. We have a few minutes for questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Please identify yourself. Keep your questions brief and pointed. Not for speeches. At this point, we will not have time for detailed observations, expert comments, speeches, but only comments. Yes, please. What is thermal imaging? Right. What is thermal imaging?
Any body has some temperature. For example, human body average temperature is 35 degrees centigrade. So any object which is heated will give out a radiation of that heat. And for small temperature like a human body, the heat comes off with a radiation in infrared. So if I switch off all the lights in the room, none of us can see each other. But if I have an infrared camera, I can see everybody. Because we all are emitting infrared because we have some temperature. So infrared thermal imaging means using the thermal radiation from my body coming out, you are imaging me. Right. Yes? Cryogenic, the word cryogenic, cryo means low temperature. Mostly the fuel, that is, there are quite a amount of fuels. There is monomethane hydrazine, tetroxine hydroxide, and other sort of things. They are very volatile. So if they're in a liquid state, even a small spark can just explode. So they are put in under pressure, they are put in a liquid form, right? And through nozzles, through jets, they are sprinkled onto the heat source, thereby igniting it. Cryogenic engine. Yeah.
Sir, what might be the reasons behind communication lost with Vikram?
I think either you have to go to ISRO or join ISRO next year to find out. I do not have the answer. How can I have the answer when the ISRO scientists who are dealing with it haven't got the answer? Do you think I have the answer? If I give the answer, I'll be ওই বাংলা ভাষায় গ্রামের মোড়লদের মতো আর কি। এইটা হয়েছে। টেলিভিশন চ্যানেলে দেখছি তো মোটামুটি সবাই সব রকম দিয়ে যাচ্ছে। কেউ কিন্তু রকেট সায়েন্স নিয়ে কাজ করেনি। কিন্তু সবাই এটা হতে পারে, ওটা হতে পারে, সেটা একটা লোকও বলতে পারে যা কিছুই করেনি। বোধহয় ফেটে পড়েছে ওই জন্য। তো হতেই পারে। Rocket science, right? Amazing. This is very much against scientific temper, actually. It is not damaged physically. Inside what has happened, nobody knows, right? Suppose if I fall down, I will get up, but one of my bones may be broken. So that is the problem.
I think that concludes the day for today. On behalf of everybody else, please join me in thanking Dr. Devi Prasad Duwari for an absolutely fascinating talk. And we will have him back. We will have him back when we know more, and we will have him back to explain to us more about the road to Chandrayaan 3. Right? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.